Hello students, welcome to Unit 7.7, Perceptual Interpretation. Perceptual interpretation is in reference to how each individual person has their own unique perceptual interpretation of the stimulation from their environment. And the first concept that relates to this is selective blindness, also known as inattentional blindness or perceptual blindness. And selective blindness is essentially a psychological lack of attention, and it's not associated with any vision defects or deficits. And it may be further defined as the event in which an individual fails to recognize an unexpected stimulus that is in plain sight. And this concept comes from two researchers named Blackmore and Cooper who studied kittens. And we're going to talk about this in class, so go ahead and pause the video and read about their experiment, and then we'll go into detail further on. Ask me about this in class, and we'll talk in class. All right? The next concept that relates to perceptual interpretation is perceptual adaptation. And we may have mentioned this in class before, actually, but perceptual adaptation relates to vision, our visual sense, and is our ability to adjust to an artificially displaced or even inverted visual field. This perceptual adaptation was studied by this researcher named George Stratton, who invented headgear that flipped right to left and up to down, so it inverted your visual field. And from his research, he found that people can adapt because our brains don't mentally flip everything right side up and left, but we learn to see and adjust this new perceptual field. Perceptual set is the mental predisposition to perceive one thing and not another. So once we perceive one thing about reality, we have trouble seeing anything else. All right? What might this be similar to in social psychology, you think? So perceptual set, we saw this in the Philip Zimbardo video earlier last week. And if you see the young face, that's not very surprising because you have a predisposition to see young faces. You have a perceptual set to see young faces. Why? Because you are young yourself and you're surrounded by young faces on a regular basis. So you have hardwired neural networks for the recognition of young faces because that's what you're more stimulated by in your environment. However, and because of this, you're unable to see the old face in the picture. Again, this is a perceptual set. All right, so perceptual sets influence what we see, hear, and how we perceive the environment around us. They also influence our schemas when we are experiencing ambiguous or vague sensations. And it also leads to context effects. And context effect is we know something, so we attribute what we see to something we know. Or in other words, it's how we take the context of what we're experiencing into consideration. So for example, if someone is being carted around the hospital, face uncovered but eyes closed, it's going to be assumed by most people that they're just sleeping. Whereas if you cover their face, you might assume that they're deceased. Okay, that's how you take the context of the situation into effect when you're forming a perception about something. All right, and that sums it up. These concepts are pretty complicated, so we will be reviewing them in more detail in class. Just get the basic definitions and understandings, and then we'll apply them with examples in class. All right, that concludes this video 7.7. We'll see you guys next time.